Let's talk about this eviction nightmare this morning. I mean, well, who could have seen this coming? Who could have seen this eviction nightmare coming from a mile away? Could you? I don't know. It kind of snuck up out of nowhere, right? We certainly weren't talking about it on this show for nearly a year. Well, this weekend, the eviction moratorium expired, leaving the potential for a mass wave of evictions and homelessness across the country. What's kind of amazing here is when you look at the White House advisors. So the White House came in and spoke to the White House advisors are now saying, look, we've done a lot we can do. Brian Deese, one of the White House economic advisors, economic council, he said, look, we've done everything we can do. President Biden he's gone above and beyond. He's gotten so much more money out to these states for economic assistance right now. He's really moved the needle on this. And so, there's not much we can do. So Brian Deese was on this weekend on Fox News Sunday answering this question. Take a listen.
So let me ask you about one of those issues, and that is coming out of COVID, and that was that there was an eviction moratorium that was put in place to help protect people from being kicked out of their homes when they couldn't work, when the government shut the economy down. But now that has expired as of last night. It's a real mess. It's been coming for months. Why wait until the last minute to address it? This, I think, as I saw it, brought up on Thursday by the speaker, and now it's expired. Would the president like to see the Senate act on this and expand the moratorium and extend it going forward?
Well, the real issue here is how to get money out to renters who, through no fault of their own, are behind on their rent, and to help landlords keep those renters in their home, which is a win-win. President Biden has been on this issue since day one, secured an additional $20 billion for states and localities for exactly this purpose, and got all of that money to the states and the localities this spring. That money is there. The states have the tools, the localities have the tools, and there's no excuse. They need to move that money to those renters and those landlords immediately. The good news is we know this can work. In June, there was triple the amount of resource that went then.
Wait a minute. So that's the good news. The good news is we know it can work. It just isn't. So that's the good news. That's good news.
There was in May. In places like Louisville and Harris County, Texas, they're getting money out effectively to help renters. And at the federal government level, we're going to continue to do what we can. Now that money is with the states and the locals, we're going to provide technical assistance. And we can extend eviction moratorium for properties that are backed by government guarantees. So that's for HUD and USDA.
But we haven't. So why not? So, okay, we can do that. We just haven't.
That's like saying we're going to have tacos for lunch. We know all the ingredients, but we don't have them yet.
Yeah, we don't have them yet. So you're just not going to eat for the next few days until we do have them. So we don't have them yet. We haven't done that yet.
And the VA. But the key message here is that no landlord should evict without seeking that rental assistance. And states and localities need to get that money out urgently. And they can do that.
Okay, so that's the answer. Let's be clear. That's the answer. That's the answer right there, is that basically landlords should not evict. You shouldn't evict, okay? You shouldn't evict at all until you ask your tenants to seek rental assistance. Who's going to do that? You might have some nice landlords out there, but how's this going to solve the problem?
Well, and in some cases, it's not necessarily mean landlords. They got to cover those costs too. They're paying that mortgage in some cases, so they're just as financially strapped as their tenants. Right.
I mean, we've been talking about that regularly here on the show about how, look, as landlords, landlords owe mortgages, and most of them are not wealthy. They're not like big BlackRock, big institutional, investors that have thousands of homes. They're mom and pops, they've got
in many
one house.
cases. Yeah, in many cases, it's just a young couple who fell into a little bit of money, so they bought another property for a rental, and they thought if the rent for it can cover the mortgage, and we'll have another asset.
Exactly, and so no, this is not going to happen. And now, this is the thing. It's like the Biden administration and House Democrats had basically sought to extend the moratorium at least until October, but failed because they didn't get enough moderate votes on it. Right? They didn't have Joe Manchins of the world. And so the key message here is that no landlord should evict without seeking that rental assistance, and state and localities need to get that money out urgently. That's the key message, according to Brian Deasy. And I get it. These states it's been a cluster. I mean, they have the money, but they literally haven't done anything with it. And so you have certain states, for instance, like in New Jersey, and I heard from listeners, they've tried to reach out to try to get access to this money, and the state website it's not available, even though it's there. How many people watching right now have tried to go through this process, tried to get access to rental assistance, and have failed? I mean, this is what we're saying. The White House advisor, just seek, rental assistance before evicting tenants.
I mean, this is the equivalent of, how they always end up bailing out these businesses, and then they just give bonuses to the executives in those companies. That's pretty much the same thing. The federal government gave the states a bunch of money for rental assistance, and where's it at?
Right. I mean, and by the way, this was passed during Trump. I mean, this was under the Trump administration, passed this $43 billion rental assistance program under Trump. And then Biden rolled out another $20 billion on top of it. And so he's like, well, we're going to help with technical assistance. And I get that. Like, this is not fully on them, but like not extending the moratorium. And you know why they're not, right? Because they've seen a number of lawsuits now, and they've heard from a number of big wealthy landlord, the Wall Street types, that are saying you cannot extend this moratorium anymore. You can't.
And I love how they're blaming the Supreme Court.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? They said you can't do it. Our hands are tied. It's the courts. This went through the courts.
Yeah.
Wall
they
Street
got no
won.
power. It's not like they're lawmakers. It's not like the president, is the president.
Class action lawsuit, hey, we're large institutional landlords. By the way, it's not the mom and pop small landlords that went to court. It's the big institutions that have the legal team that can afford to go and do this. And it's odd, though, that you've had certain states that have done really well with the rollout of this rental assistance. You had Texas and Kentucky actually did pretty well with it, but then other states have not. They've totally crapped the bed with this. And a lot of blue states, by the way. A lot of states that are quote unquote liberal blue states have totally been awful with getting this rental assistance out to people. And they talk about their websites are not sufficient. We don't have the infrastructure for it. Guys, this is so sickening. This is America. Like, we're literally watching as millions of people are going homeless.
You know what the solution would have been? The solution would have been if they didn't have to try to figure out like some new system for getting money out. It's like, okay, we're going to help you with your rent. We don't have an infrastructure in place to do that. But you know what have made this better? A UBI or more stimulus. Give it into the hands of the people. They would have paid their rent.
Yeah,
like the people can't pay their rent because they don't have the money. So you're trying to bypass the people and get it to the landlords or get it to the state. And you're completely messing it all up. Just give it right to the people.
And this is where the federal dollar could have come in, the federal digital currency that we've been talking about here. The Fed was looking to roll out this digital wallet for every American because of emergencies. That's, to me, where I see the biggest upside on a federal digital currency is on emergency situations, like a Hurricane Katrina, when people, like, no electricity, they don't, but they at least can have access to some money where they're not having to wait. Their homes are destroyed, so they don't have a mailing address anymore, so they can't get a stimulus check mailed to them. Where are they going to pick it up? Right? Here's an opportunity for you to actually have that inside of a digital wallet that you'd have access to. Just giving some people some help. And so making the landlords get the money first, pushing that and having them jump through all of these hoops in order to get this funding when it's way easier for them to just go through the eviction process. I mean, let's be honest. That's much easier. So there you go. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this in the comments below. Unfortunately,
and that's where the infrastructure's been built around. The infrastructure's been completely built around getting people out of their homes. It's not been built around keeping them in their homes.
Yeah. Jeannie Jolie says the people I knew owed rent, put their stimulus on that. Yeah. Lori Goodpastor says, I have heard that some landlords are taking assistance and then evicting tenants. That should be illegal. Agreed. And there's no oversight for it, Lori. Here's the thing. Here's what's happening, right? When they do that, they are basically blaming the the tenant for some other reason, un-COVID pandemic related. They're saying, oh, they have a noise violation.
Yeah.
They've
Oh,
been
they have
too
another
loud.
pet.
They have another pet. Even though we knew about the pet, it was on the lease. But we're going to evict them anyway. So it's non-pandemic related. They evict them, even though they then got the money for it. That's how the system works. No oversight, and the states aren't doing anything. But furthermore, what really bothers me is that we saw this coming for months. I've been talking about it here. Then you have like Cori Bush sleeping on the steps of the Capitol with other people who are about to lose their homes. Good for her. Like, civil disobedience, like sleeping out there. That's better than tweeting, calling attention to this issue.
Agreed.
Right? So finally put your action there. But like this honestly should have been happening months ago. We should have been hearing from these members of Congress who pushing on. We should have had real leadership from the President of the United States on this.
Well,
But
it's not like they didn't know it was coming.
Yeah, I know. And I guess if your hands are tied because of the Supreme Court and you have these lawsuits from these big institutional landlords that are, what are you going to do about it? What authority do you have other than extending the moratorium?
But that's the thing. That's just a deflection. I mean, it's like they have to have somebody to pin it on. If it doesn't go this way, they can pin it on Republicans. They can pin it on Manchin. They can pin it on the Supreme Court. Like, you can just go ahead and keep pinning it on people. But the bottom line is they're not fighting for it. All of these people, if they really cared about this, you would be seeing it on the mainstream media. You would be seeing them having press conferences. They would be out there on Twitter. They would be out there in front of the White House having, rallies and stuff like that. Like, they would actively be doing something to fight this, but they're doing nothing.
Yeah, it's gotten so little coverage. I mean, this weekend, finally, we started getting coverage of this. And you know why? Because it mostly affects lower income individuals, and that's not the focus. That's not the focus of Congress. The little people, the people that can't afford, the people that are people are going to have evictions on their permanent record. There's already an unbelievable demand for homes in this country and rental properties in this country. We already have a massive shortage of them, and now these people are going to be homeless. These people are going to have evictions on their permanent record, which are going to make them less likely to be rented to in the future. This is a nightmare, and homeless shelters are overrun.
But you know who won't have that on their record? These big companies, these big management companies. What is it? BlackRock and all these. Their credit, everything, they're going to come out of it just fine. And actually, they're going to come out of it even better, because while this is all going on, these idiots are going in here and buying up all the houses that people can't afford.
Yeah. I mean, we've got, it's not just BlackRock, it's Invitation Homes. And we know that, right? BlackRock said that to us. The CEO of BlackRock last summer said, we are ready. He said privately, it was not meant to get out publicly. He basically told his board and shareholders at BlackRock that we're sitting on cash. We are waiting for the shoe to drop, and we are ready to pounce, and we are ready to buy up these homes. So there's going to, the mortgage moratorium, all of it rolling up right now. So that's what we're facing in the United States. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this in the comments below. Thanks for subscribing to the channel. You can also become a channel member by going to morninginvest.com/join, where you can stick it to the mainstream media and support independent journalism. We're able to bring you the stories that you won't see on any of the major billionaire-backed networks. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time, everyone.